Okay. So in the last session, whatever we have means we have actually learned about the how you can write a basic Lightning LWC component. So this is the sections actually where we are doing the changes and everything. Now, if you check the code, this is the component we have written, right? Means there is a greeting which is automatically changing based on the change in the input field you are doing. Means from the input field, whatever the value you are giving, then we are calling the onChange event handler. And in this JS function, you are actually catching this value and assigning in a variable, and that variable you are displaying in a paragraph in the page. Same thing actually we done for another one. Just we just showcase you that how you can call different on change handler in the JS part. And also we introduce one function called connected callback. That is actually a property of JS function that on time at the time of load of the page, always this connected callback will call. And there you can, as you can mention any other you can say the apex parameters or whatever apex class you can call, or any other thing you can call. That means at the time of load, if you want to display something, then you can do that one. Now today I will first I'll showcase you that how, means there is some of the decorators in Lightning LWC, sorry, in LWC. What is the decorators? That means whatever the value we are assigning here, we can control those values based on some of the decorators. That means some of the parameters, if you add before before the variables, then those variables actually behaving something different. And that's why that's called the decorator. Decorator means you can some things you can say decorate the LWC component. Now there is a three kind of decorator we have in LWC. One is track, @track, one is @API, and one is @where function, track function, and API function, you can say. Now whatever the decorator you want to use, first of all in the JS component, normally this decorator we are using or we are assigning, we always do in the JS component, means JavaScript component. It's not related to anything in the HTML component. So in the HTML part, we are not changing anything. Whatever the decorator parts we are adding, that is actually we are doing in the JS component part. So first of all, when we return, that means import, this is the standard, we importing the Lightning element from the LWC. This is the library we are actually importing in this particular JS component. Now here you also ask, we have to mention the decorator which one you want to use. If you don't mention here, then you cannot use any kind of decorator in the function or in the method. Clear? Let's say we are using the API decorator, at that API decorator.
So, sir, to open the site, sorry for interrupting. I think
Sorry.
I didn't share your screen, sir.
Oh, I have not shared my screen. Oh, sorry, extremely sorry.
No issue, sir. No issue.
So now you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So just as I mentioned, the last session, I discussed that how you can write a simple basic LWC component. Whenever you are actually creating LWC component, automatically three components will be created along with the main LWC component. One is HTML, which is for the display. One is JavaScript, which is actually for the actions. Whatever you want to mention there, either you want to call any Apex class method or any other event function, everything is controlled in the JS part. HTML is only related to the display. It's not related to any actions. Whatever the actions it is doing, it is actually done in the JS in the backend. You can say the backend code is the JS, front end code is the HTML. Okay. And XML is, what is that? It's actually you are where, means how you can expose this particular Lightning component. Either it's a record page or home page that we are mentioning in the XML part. In the XML, we are not doing so much. Only this particular, always whenever you are creating a new lightning component, it is coming as a false, you make it true. And also you mention the target, means the target components from where actually you want to use it, you want to use this lightning web component as a app page or record page or home page that you are assigning. So nothing more you have to do in the XML part. Now main changes whatever we are doing in the HTML and JS. Now as I mentioning that there is a three kind of decorator you can use in the lightning web component. Decorator is actually one kind of functionality, it is actually add-on functionality which is giving that whatever the variables we are using, using the decorator we can extend the functionality of those variables. Normally in this scenario the variables we have not given any, this is the private variables. Normally we have not assigned anything, something that like in the class whatever we are doing like public static or something, public class, public variable, something like we are assigning. But here we have not assigned anything, this is the local variables right now. Now using some of the decorators we can assign this variable as a public, means global, or anything as means trackable. Trackable means you can track whatever the variables will change, you can track those, something like that you can use the decorators. And also there is three kind of decorators you have right now in LWC. One is API decorator, one is track decorator, one is where decorator. Now API decorator, track decorator or where decorator, whatever you want to use based on the functionality or requirement, you have to decide what decorator you should use. So that decorator you have to first assign here, means you have to write what decorator you want to use. Normally let's say I want to use three of them, then what I will write, I will write where, sorry, I will write WIRE where decorator I want to use, comma API, comma track. So this is the three decorator. First of all you have to import, otherwise you cannot use, like the just previously when I explained, we are means importing the lightning element from the LWC library. Same thing, we are importing the where decorator from the LWC library API, because it is the property of the LWC library. You have to import first, then you can use. Now normally whenever you are writing this one, see it is coming as a gray color. Gray color means it is not used anywhere. If you use, then automatically it will come like a this color, green means, sorry, blue color. Now what is the difference between three decorators? Now API decorator, what is the API? Let's say first discuss about the API decorator. What is the API decorator? API decorator means if you want to use any variable as a public. Public means let's say you have 3 4 lightning element, sorry, lightning component. Now in one of the lightning component, whatever the variable you are giving, you want to use in another lightning component. That means let's say there is a two component, one is parent component, one is child component. Now in the child component, whatever the value you are giving on a variable, you want to use that variable in the parent component. Now if you don't specify that variable as at the rate API, then you will not get those value on the outside of this particular component. Okay, that means let's say in a Apex class, whenever you want to access any public variable, then what we are doing, outside of the method we are assigning this variable as a public static. Okay, and that variable you can use via another Apex class, correct?
Yes,
Hello.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Same thing, we are using the API decorator for that use. That means if you want to access any variable which is used outside of this particular lightning component, then that component you have to decorate with at the rate API. That means like we are assigning before that variable like public static, something like that, the same thing you have to do. Simply let's say I have created one component, lightning component called child component update message. Okay. What is the component is actually displaying? It's displaying, it's a header section, it's displaying a label. Okay. And in the JS, whatever I have done, just I have imported the lighting element and also the API decorator from the LWC library. Now this is a simple code. Just in the previous day, I heard whatever I have written. But what I have done here, I have assigned a variable with, before that I have used API at the rate API. That means this variable is made, we have made this variable as global. Now in this variable I have given some value. Okay. Now this is,
I have one question, sir.
yeah,
Sir, please, sir, go to the JS. What?
this is the JS.
No, sir.
This is the new
HTML.
component I have written.
No, sir. HTML. Please, sir. HTML part. Yes, sir. And there here is the H1.
H1 is the header
Yes,
actually.
sir.
I have,
In the previous class, sir, you told me that P, that
yeah,
means, sir, paragraph, right, sir?
this is different parameters. P for paragraph, H for header. It is a HTML property. Okay. If you go to the HTML, I think that is w3 ww3school.com, something like that, the website. You will get different parameters to display something. Like as a header, if you want to display something, we are giving as a H1. If you want to show as a paragraph, then we are giving as a syntax called P. So this is the HTML property. You can just write as a P also. That is not a concern. Here you can write P as well. Okay.
Okay, sir.
No issues. Just I can deploy this one. It will not change anything. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay.
This is the property of the HTML tag. This is the tag, whatever you can see. This is actually a property of HTML. Okay. Okay. Now, what I am explaining, yeah, JS part. Now, this variable I made it as a global. Okay. And in this variable, I have used one value. Now, what I have done, I just added this component. I just added this component here. This is the another component. See, this label is from child.js. The same thing I have written here. Okay. This is the component. Now what I want, this is another component not related to this hello world component. This is the different, this is different lightning page, this is different lightning page or lightning component, you can say. Now I want this variable should also be used in this particular hello world lightning component. If I want to use any variable like this variable, if I want to display here, then we have to assign this one as a API. Otherwise, we cannot get the value. Always it will say undefined, something like that. Also, to decorator, you cannot assign on a same variable. That means, let's say if I add as a track, you cannot add something like that at the rate track. For the same variable, you cannot. Only one decorator you can use as per the any variable, okay, at a time.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello. If we want to make any variable global, so we have to put add API before that variable.
Yes. Confusion in it?
No, no, no. It's clear now. Thank you, sir.
Because if you don't give this one, like previously whenever we have written this way, we have written the variable, right? In this JS, if you see the variable, sorry, this one not, let me open, close this one. Where is the, no, this one not, hello world, this one. So previously, whenever we have written the variable, we have not given any kind of decorator before that particular variable, right? This is actually the private variable. That means this variable properties is limited to this particular component. outside of this hello world component, you cannot get the value of this variable. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If you want to use the variable outside of this component, then before that you have to assign @API. Then it actually you are making, or you are actually making this property or making this variable as a global. Then you can use this variable in other component. Okay. Just for the example, what actually I have done, I have created a different lightning component. This is totally a different lightning component. Just previously how we have created, just I clicking on the LWC, clicking on the create lightning component, I have done the same thing. I have created a separate lightning component where I just displaying one header level, which is actually I assigned here, and it is actually 1 minute. Let me. I have assigned this variable as a global, means I have used @API decorator before this variable. Okay. Now I added this component in the page. Now you can see this value is coming. Now my requirement is that I want to use this variable in this particular hello world lightning component. That is different component. Now for that, that's why I have decorated this variable with the @API decorator. That means I made it global. Now I go to the hello world HTML and JS part. Normally in HTML, JS part, we are not doing anything. We want to display whatever the value it is there, we want to display here. Now what I have done, just this particular part, I am displaying the property of that particular header label. Now see how actually I call the lightning child component or another component. C is the component dash. Now this is the name of the first component, child component. What is the name? Child component update message. Now anything coming as a uppercase, it is actually segregated with a hyphen. It should be segregated with a hyphen. Child component hyphen update hyphen message. In this way, you are calling another component, another lightning component. Now, child component till this particular one is one parameter. Hyphen update. Why it is coming as a hyphen? Because you have mentioned as a uppercase, and also message aim is actually coming as a uppercase. So that's why whenever you are doing a uppercase in between the you can say the name, always those be segregated with hyphen. It is the format of the LWC component calling. And always it is taking in a hyphen format. Whenever if you want to call as a whole, you don't want to give any kind of hyphen something, then all the value, all the name you have to write in a small case. That means, let's say if I change the name like this way, I just remove uppercase everywhere. Now all together you can write here. You don't need any hyphen. Sorry. All together you can write in any in this format, because a whole component you have given as a lowercase. But in between the letter, if you are giving any uppercase, automatically it will come as a dash in between those words. Now again, if I rename something like that, wow, how it was the previously, let's say retrieve from the component. Let me open that one. 1 minute. If I give something like that, C capital, U capital, and M capital, then how it will come? It will come something like that in the name. Dash how many numbers of uppercase you have, separate those uppercases will be segregated in between with a dash. Clear on this part? How you are calling any other component or child component or anything?
Sir, here we are using a small c before the child component. Sir, what is
This is the first parameter. Either you are using the small or capital, always all those letters will come as a small. So even if you are giving C as a capital, then also it is coming as a small.
no, sir? Past c child before the child dash there is a c.
Yeah, C is actually referring as a component. C is a component, another component you are calling. It's not inside this component. You are calling a component outside of this one. So that's why it's coming as a C. Is the syntax, it can understand the system, okay, we are calling another component, something like that.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now let me retrieve this one, and I have changed this one, rename just of how it was previously, just I will do same. So in this particular part, how we are calling the child component, sorry, any other component, this particular name means how you can call another component. This is clear? Anyone has any doubt? Like let's say this is another component, DC custom input. This is another lightning component. If you want to call this one, how you can call? Let's say if I,
Small c dash uh, dc.
everything in this letter, everything will come as a small c. How you are calling? The first letter is DC is small. Okay. Hyphen as C is uppercase, hyphen custom, and hyphen input. Let's say in this particular one, if you have like C capital, U capital, S capital, then everything will be coming as a hyphen, something like C hyphen U hyphen S, something like it will come. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me retrieve. Okay, I just change this one, the H. So why I had changed this one as a H1, I'm telling you. See, in this component, we are actually getting the header label. Okay. So let me open this one. And I removing this one. So what I have done, I have called the child component. And see, this child component I have called. And now what it will show? It will actually fetch this particular property. This one, full component it will fetch. And it will display the header label. Okay. Now I call the component, and whatever the header label, that means whatever is the value you have assigned here, it will be shown in this particular component. If I just refresh this page, you can see this the value is coming here. You can see the value is coming here. Now let's say if I change this variable with a track, what will happen? Can I use? Let me check. It's not clearing the cache. I use this one. Let me check all this. Okay. Now just observe the changes. Let's say first I have given the API. Let me just deploy this one. And just I am removing this one. Let me just comment out this part. Probably it's giving casing problem. So now what I have done, I have called this component in this particular hello world component. Now you can see whatever the label we have used, you can see the same label here. Okay. Now what I am doing, I want that, okay, in this particular lightning web component, means the hello world component, I want to change the label. It should not be the label which is coming from the child component. I just want to change the label. What I have done, just this particular one, I just called. What is that? Header underscore label. That means what is the header underscore label? This is a component name, header label. As L is coming as a capital, that's why it is taking the header underscore label. Okay, that
Sir,
means of
underscore
this
hyphen.
sorry,
Underscore or hyphen, sir.
sorry,
Like
underscore hyphen. Sorry, my bad. Hyphen. So in this component, what is the label, header label? Sorry, that label I want to change here. Okay, and whenever you are changing, what is actually it is changing, it is going to this means it is calling this particular component and it is updating here, because we are displaying this section, right, in the parent component. Clear this particular part? So in this particular one, we are calling the component, means child component, and we are updating the header label. That means the which one we are displaying. Header label means it is the variable name, actually this one we are updating with a new value. And whenever we are updating, what it is doing changes, means in this particular section whatever we are changing, the same changes, actually it is calling this particular child component and it is actually changing here. Okay, hello, clear?
Okay, sir.
Now just I am deploying this one. Now see in this particular, because in this sections we are displaying the child component, we just updated. See here I am changed. Now I am not updating. Actually, this is not updating the actual component. This is the updating the replica of the component, which is actually I used in this particular LWC part, LWC component. Means we have called this component here. And what is actually doing? It is fetching the properties of this component and it is updating that particular property. But it is it is actually updating not actual component. It is updating the prototype of this particular one. Confusion in this part?
No, sir, no confusion.
Okay. Now let's say I can access this component as I have used @API variable.
Sir,
Because,
uh,
yeah.
if I use track as a variable or
Yeah, I'm telling that way. I have accessed this variable because I have used the API variable. Now if I just give as a track, what will happen? I think it is your question, right?
yes, sir.
Now this track variable we means I have used this as a track, that is means it's a local variable. Now from this one, can I change? Just let me check. This is not changed. Why? This is the local variable. You are not getting the instance of that variable globally. So that's why you are not, you just only display, you can display it, but you cannot change the variable because you don't have the permission to change. That is the local variable. That's why you cannot change. Clear?
Yes, sir.
But if you use, sorry, but if you use API, then you are actually making it global. That means you are giving the access to other property, other component also, that you can use this variable or you can use this one and you can do anything whatever you want. So that's why at the time when we are actually mentioning as a API, that time it is changing. Okay, understood why I'm means what is the difference between track and API?
Yes,
So there is two decorator I explained. One is @API, one is @track. Track is actually used for the local part. Now you can, in this particular example, let's say in this example, you can assign a variable as a track or you cannot, whatever you want. Okay, I have not used here as a track. That's why, see, this is coming as a error. Why? Because I have not imported the track property from the library, LWC library. Whenever I have assigned track, then see it is automatically the error is going. Just a minute.
Sir, I have a question, sir. For local variable, we don't need any kind of LWC library, right? And
For local variable, either you can assign as a track or you cannot assign anything. But
on
why?
and
Why?
whenever we are going to use API, we don't require the LWC library.
No, no. LWC lightning means I cannot get.
No, no. You just said that for the local variable, we are getting that kind of LWC library that where track
You
is.
have to import it. API
Yeah.
also.
For API also we have to import it.
Yeah, because see in this way actually I have actually done this one.
Okay. Okay.
You
Got it, sir.
whatever the decorator you want to use, the same decorator you have to import from the LWC library. Otherwise, you cannot use that one.
Okay. First thing first, we have to collect the decorator from library.
Yes, but
Got it, sir.
everything you should not use. See here, I have used the track. That's why the color of the track is changed. Now, if I remove this one, see it is actually again faded out. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's why whatever the decorator you are using, only that decorator you should call. Otherwise, unnecessary decorator you should not call. This is the best practice. But from the beginning, because when you are actually means writing the LWC, then three decorators you can call all together, and you can write your code and check whatever the decorator is not used. Anything it is not used, it is coming as a gray out, and you can use you can delete that decorator from this particular one. Okay, so either you can add at the rate track before any variable or not. The same thing it is actually it is mentioning. That means this is also local variable, this is also local variable. Okay, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and another variable at another decorator is called the where decorator. Now what is the where decorator? Normally where decorator is something different from whatever we are discussing right now. Where decorator we use normally when we want to fetch any list of data or any kind of data from the Salesforce, means from the database, and we want to store or we want to display somewhere. Okay, either the list of a subject, or you can say array of a subject, or whatever the thing you want to fetch at the time of load, you can use the where decorator. Where decorator is actually why we use the where decorator. Now what is the difference between the connected callback and where decorator? Where decorator and connected callback behave same, means at the time of load or any time after changes, if you just refresh the page, those method will call, those functions will call. Whenever the where decorator will call, the data whatever is fetching from anywhere, let's say from the Apex class, it's coming as a error data mapping, error data binding, you can say. That means whatever the data you are returning in the where decorator in the list or whatever, it is coming as a data and error format. That means either it is coming as a error, it will always show as a error. If it is coming as a data, it will store the data in a variable. Okay, now how actually what I have explained, how you can call the where decorator and how you can display the list of data in page, just I'm explaining one by one. So as where decorator, when we are explaining that time, it is actually calling the Apex method from the Apex class. Okay, now the second thing actually I want to discuss here, that how you can call the Apex method in the Lightning Web Component. So this is the format. Import, you can assign any name. This is the local variable name, as the variable name you are defining. This is the local name, you can assign anything. From @Salesforce /Apex/ the class you want to call. Now for this example, I have created one class called contact controller. What is that class? This is the class without sharing contact controller. Here we have created a method called get contacts. What this method returning? This is returning a list of contact. Now for the example, I have hard coded this account ID, but it can be dynamic if you want. Okay, so
Okay.
this particular method is not parameter. We have not sent any parameter here. That means this is without any parameter. But if you want, you can add any parameter also. That means from the Lightning Web Component, if you want, you can send any specific parameter if you want. How? I will explain later. Let's consider that there is no parameter. Now, as this particular Apex method I want to use in the Lightning Web Component, first of all, I have to assign this variable, sorry, this method with aura enabled. Either if I don't add this aura enable tag, we cannot use any method in the Lightning Web Component. And if you want to use any method in where function, where decorator, then you have to mention this one, castable equal to true. So if you want to call any method in where function, then not only aura enable but also castable equal to true you have to call. You have to mention. But normally other connected callback or any on event function, on click function, if you want to call any affix method, then you don't have to mention this one. Only aura enable if you mention, then you can call. Now just what I have done in the JS part C, I have called the class dot the method name. Here I am calling the get contacts. Same thing I have called. Same way, if you want to call any other method, in a same class you can call, or in another class you can call. Whatever you want, you can call any class here. Not like, it is not like in the page we are actually associating with a controller. Something not like that. You can call the Apex class whatever you want, and the method whatever you want. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now let's say in this particular in this particular one, get contact with parameters. I have created another method, get contact their parameters. I have removed the cacheable equal to true. What I am doing, I am sending this ID here as a parameter, and I am using this one here. Hold on. Let's let display. Now just I can call this particular one here. Now as I given the same name, that's why it's giving the error. I'm just changing the name. Anything you can give.
Sir, here I have a question, sir.
Hmm.
Import get contacts from the syntax of the Apex class, right, sir? Here, contact controller dot get contacts, the get contacts and the import get contacts, this is same. Is there any method to write the same, or it should be different?
This name.
Yes, this name and the get contact is same.
This is the thing, is the property of class. Contact controller dot method name. Now method, whatever the method name you are assigning, the same method name you have to mention here.
Yes, sir, I got it, sir. But sir, this name and the
Or
import
you
get
can change. You can give anything. See here, I have used get contacts with parameters, but in name I have given get contacts parameter. I have not given the with word here.
Okay, sir.
Okay, you can give any name here. It's not like that it should be something like the method name. No, that is not the concept.
Sir,
You
if
can,
I get the same name, is there any issue?
no, there is no issue, because here actually we have created with the same name. That will not create any issue.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now what I want to explain here, the where method, where decorator, not method. Now see what I have done. I have called this particular method. Now when I am doing here, I have to give this name, not this name. Okay. If I change like without parameter, see it is coming that I have not used anywhere. Now what I have to do, I have to give here the same name. Is it clear?
No, sir.
The name, just I change this particular name, the variable name or class name, whatever you are importing, that this name you have to use where actually you are calling the param method. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Means if you want to call in this particular connected callback function or where function, this name you have to use, not this name.
Okay, sir. If I use, sir, at the rate where get contact, is that possible, sir?
Yeah, I can change. I have to change this one. I can just change this
No,
one.
sir. No, sir. No, sir. In line 24, if I write a new line at the rate where and get contacts.
If you want to call this like this one,
Yes, sir.
but you have
Here,
to assign here the get contacts.
yes, sir.
You have to call this something like that way. Get contacts. You have to give there, right? Just this one
Yes.
you have to use. You have to give here the get contacts.
Okay. Okay. Got it,
Okay.
sir. Got it.
just I am just removing this one, and I am also removing this one, because how it was previously, just I am doing the same.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
What I have done, I open the where decorator. First of all, I imported the where decorator for NWC library. I open the where decorator. In the where decorator, I call this apex method. Okay.
Hmm.
What is this apex method is doing? It's actually, you can say, returning a list of contact which is associated to this account. As of now, for for this training, I have given the hard coded ID. Let's say for this account, whatever the contact we have, we are returning the list of contact. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now it is coming, the list of contact, whatever we get, the return value, we have to store anywhere. That's why we are storing now. This is the syntax we are writing, where bracket, it's a method, which method you want to call. And then after that, we are adding a variable. This variable I have not used anywhere here. Automatically in this variable, the data will stored. If I write in this way or in this way, the same thing will happen. This is the variable where it's defining this way. This is the method we define as a where. After the where, whatever the variable we declared, it is actually the where variable. In this variable, we are storing the data property. Whenever the where method or where decorator call, it is actually storing data and error properties. Error means if anything happens, means let's say any error happens or something, some of the exception happens, then those values is stored in the error property. And if any data has been returned, that is stored in the data property. Okay. Now normally in this variable, I have not checked which one is the error, which one is the data. We assume that okay, whatever is returned, it is actually we are storing in this variable and it is coming the correct data. But if you want to track the error also, you can. That means, let's say if something happen, you want to track the error as well, because you cannot guarantee whenever you are getting the return, always it will return the correct value or not. So that error tracking also you can do. Same thing we are doing in this particular class. That means try catch block we are doing. We are catching the exceptions and we are throwing. Same thing you can do also here also. You can catch the error, whatever the error means, whatever the error, if error is there, you are catching those error, and you can do anything, means you can display in the page or whatever you want. But if then there is no error, if data is coming, then you can display the data. Now for the training, I just assume that it is always the data is coming, no error. As of now, no error is coming. Now whatever the data means, the list of contact we get, we are storing in this variable. Automatically it will store the data property in this variable. Clear this part?
Yes, sir.
Now just whatever I changes, just I am deploying. Though I am deploying part by part, but always the best practice is that you always deploy as a whole package. Now just go to the HTML. What I want, whatever the data I got, I want to display here. I can display the data property with two ways. Means I can display as a table structure or as a lightning data table, whatever you want. Let's say I am going with a simple solution. Let's display with a lightning data table. Sorry, yeah, lightning data table. What I have done here, this is the lightning card. I have a new card. I have actually mentioned there contact record, because to show the contact data. Lightning data table, this is the format how actually you are displaying the lightning data table. What is the key field? That means based on that, the how the data will be displayed. Normally the key field is the ID. So that means whatever the data we are getting, we are storing as a key field the ID. Okay. Now in the data, what we have done, we have, I told you this. This is in this parameter. You have two values, means either the data property or error property. Okay. Now, if the record is successful, then in the data property, the list of contact will appear. So the contact data, which is containing two parameters, error property, data property, we are just displaying the data property here. We assume that there is no error. That's why we want to display the data. That means list of contact. So contact data is a where variable where two values has binded. One is the error, one is the data. Data is when you are the record is success, means the return is successful and nothing is happened. Error is if something fails or some of the problems of the data type, then it will come as an error. That means contact data dot error, something like that it will come. But we assumed, okay, for the training that okay, everything is coming properly, that we are fetching the data property and we are displaying in this lightning data table only the data property of this contact data variable, means where data variable, where variable, sorry. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now which of the columns you want to display here? Here we have mentioned the columns. Now how you can mention the columns here? Just see, this is the constant we introduce outside of the function, like import, how we are importing the apex class or the different library functions. Then we are also we are mentioning that which of the columns you want to display. Now I mention which columns I want to display. See here the label is means ID, whatever the ID it is actually coming. I am actually, which is the field name the API name, means whatever the data I am coming, means I am getting the API with the ID API name, I am storing in the label ID. Whatever the data is coming with the API name first name, we are storing a label called first name. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, is that the syntax have to write this way, or I can write only field name ID or label ID?
Label and field name, means field name is the API name, means which field value you want to fetch.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know that, but sir, my question is that I have to have I to write that both two things or the only one? I can write the alternative things, like a label or field name.
No. Alternative you cannot. Normally, if you don't mention the label, it is actually coming in a different way.
Okay.
You, I just I can show you. Just hold a minute. How it will actually it will display, because this is required. Otherwise, you cannot display anything, because which field you want to display, that parameter, that particular API name, it is required. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now just I am just refreshing this page. Let me check how it is coming. See, if I don't mention this one, how it is coming, just let me check
Hmm.
and deploying.
And for the email, I have to write the type, sir.
So the level
Type
is vanished, sir.
level is vanished. Now type
Yes.
actually you can give. If you give, then automatically it is coming as a hyperlink. You can send a mail. Automatic the mailbox will open, something like that. If you don't give, then it is coming as a text like this way.
Hmm. Got it.
Okay. Let's say just Control Z. Now let's say if I don't give the first name, what will happen? No data will come. Either it will give error or no data will come. Let me open that one. See, no data is coming because it cannot find which field you want to display here.
Hmm. Sir, got it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now just
Yes, sir.
Control Z. and I am deploying. Now, if you don't give this particular type, what is happening? I just explaining you. If you don't give this type, you can or you cannot. That is optional. But this two field is required because otherwise, the field means if you don't have the header, it will show. It will looking very wrong. And also, if you don't specify the API name, then it will also not display the values whatever you want to fetch. Sorry, want to display. Now, if you just remove the type, see, it is coming as a normal text.
Oh, the hyperlink is
Hyperlink is gone. Hyperlink is actually, let's say, if I just display, means deploy the whole thing. Hyperlink is actually when you click, automatically one email functionality will open. If you have Outlook or something, automatically you can send the email when clicking while clicking on this particular link. If I click, then automatically one inbox something like will open. See, it is opening this particular one. You can send a mail. This is actually the type property is actually doing.
yes, sir.
Okay. And
It will use the email ID address as a send address, right, sir?
yes, it's the same thing because type has mentioned an email. Now, if you just display, let's see if I just face the phone number. Okay.
Hmm.
Because I have not queried, that's why it will give error. That's why I just add in the query the phone number. And in the JS component, I want to show the phone number as well. Let's say phone number. So see, the flexibility is that you don't have to again and again you have to write here anything, because whatever the changes you are doing, automatically the table will be the column will be increased.
Sir, please repeat once.
That means whatever the columns you are adding here, automatically it will be added here in these sections. You don't have to change anything in the HTML property.
Okay.
Now
Type phone.
see here you can call. Sometimes actually if I click, then automatically one dial pad will open, but for this we don't have the installed any app or something. Otherwise, somewhere some of the organization you have the automatic calling functionality, means this particular another API or software is installed. So whenever you clicking on that software will be called and automatically you can call this person. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Good.
So this is the actually type is actually mentioning. When what type means, if I just mention as a text, what will happen?
Normal text
Coming
type.
as a text, something like you are not giving any type. Same thing.
Yes.
Sorry. See, without giving any type, how it is coming? The same thing. It is actually text. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So what I have just I am actually repeating. I mean, I am repeating my
Sir,
things.
one more query, sir, I have.
Yeah.
Sir, go to the UI, sir, please. UI, sir, UI, in Salesforce UI.
Oh, in Salesforce UI.
Sir, if I in the last name conto and first name test, if I add sir name, only name, sir, full name, the test contact will be appear. And if I if I give that a type, I don't know the special type of this. If I click that, can it,
Let me check and check. You are talking about the name.
hmm,
Let me check if it is appearing or not. Just I have to add anything called name here.
hmm.
I am not mentioning any type because I don't need, because it's a text. I know.
Yes, I have this query, right, because I want to know if I click that the if I can click that the name, can it possible to go to the record?
Ah, okay. That means hyperlink you want. Yeah, it's possible. That for properties you also can do. See, it is coming. Full name.
Yes, sir. In this name, can I click that and go to the record?
No, in this name you have not added this property, but that property, that is actually the another functions you have to add. Type means you are mentioning the type comma ID, something like that. You are mentioning like that
No, sir.
means.
For the email type, I if I click that the email, I am redirected to the mail page, right, sir? Is there any other type for the name? If I click that the name, I should redirect to the record page.
I have to check because I have not done anything. But from you can do, you can do that property. Sorry, do that functionality by a different format. Okay, I think it is possible, but I have to check.
So yes,
Okay.
we can change the attribute of that column so that we can go to that. We can use the attribute column to go to that. What
Yes,
little
I
bit is
think there is an
that.
attribute properties is there. I have not done yet, so that's why yes, you have to do the attribute. Then we can assign that ID of that record. That means it is always, it is actually attribute properties. If you specify, then it will coming as a hyperlink, and thus if you click the hyperlink, whatever the field you are mentioning the attribute, if you click on the hyperlink, automatically it will be redirecting to the contact. Sorry, the record, specific record. The record will be actually based on the ID.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now
Yes.
just what I have done, I just mentioned whatever means a lightning data table in the HTML part. And in lightning data table I want to display the list of means I want to display the list of contacts, and those method I call in the where decorator. Where decorators I call this particular apex method, and I have assigned the variables, whatever the return value we are getting in another where variables, that contact data. You don't have to explicitly mention at the rate where beside this variable. It is automatically, it will understand, okay, you after calling this method, whatever the variable you are assigning, automatically it will be, the system will understand, okay, this is the where variable, and whatever the value you are getting as a return from the class, either it's a error or it's a data, that means the success, those will be you can say assigned in this variable. And that variable we are using here in the lightning data table, and just the data property we are displaying, not the error property. We assume that there is no error, just that's why we are displaying the data property. And what are the columns you want to display? With the variables we are accessing those columns: ID, name, first name, last name, email. Okay, whatever the columns you want to display, you can assign here, and also you have to assign in the query, otherwise it will give error, something that you have not queried that value, field value, and then you are using something like that, it will have, it will come. Clear?
Yes, sir, I have a query, sir.
Sorry.
Sir, I have a query, sir. Please go
Yeah.
to the HTML page, sir. Sir, in the Lightning data table, when we are opening a Lightning data table, then this is a Lightning data table component, that's okay. And there is a key field is equal to ID, data will be passed, contact or data, that is okay. Sir, what is the purpose of key field is equal to ID and columns is equal to columns?
Key field means how actually you are displaying the data, that is what is the key value. Normally, let's say you have a list of records. Okay, list
Yes.
of records you have, then with which key value you can under, because normally if you want to fetch the lightning data table, and if you want to use the record specific data, then you need the ID of that record. You can do like just as mentioned by means one of your means I think who Rita Brothor who asked these questions, that how can I, if I display the full name in, if I click, then how can I navigate to the next page, the record page, something like that.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Also, if you want to do any actions, then how you can get this particular record ID. Otherwise, if you don't get the ID, then you cannot do any actions. You can update the record, you can delete the record. So that's why you are always fetching the key values of the means unique identifier of that record. Now normally unique identifier of a record is the ID. That's why we are giving the key field. That means key value of that particular row of that lightning data table is the ID of that record.
Okay, sir. Got it. Means it uniquely identifies the each records by the
Yes.
ID field.
Yeah, based on that ID, we are identifying the each and every record. Because this lightning data table, whenever you are giving the list of records, is actually repeating itself. For every record, it's storing the ID and it's displaying the columns based on the data, how you are getting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, the second thing I want to discuss today, I have assigned a variable here, local variable, which I assigned as array. Hello.
No, sir. No,
Yeah,
sir.
it's array. So I have assigned as a array. Okay.
Hmm.
Now what I will do, I will call this particular method. Okay.
Okay,
Hmm.
sir.
Now this is the parameterized method. How I can call the parameterized method here? I am calling this method. Now I have two, this is the syntax. First bracket, second bracket, start and end. In this particular one, I have to assign the variable, means sorry, the parameter, whatever I want to send the value. Now in this particular method, what is the parameter name? This particular name we have to
Account
copy.
ID, sir.
Yes, the same whatever the value you have given here, the text, same text you have to copy and you have to add here. If you add anything different, the same thing you have to copy, and you can assign anything here. Let's say I, for the first time, I am adding the hard coded ID. This ID I'm using. Okay.
Hmm.
Or you can assign any other variables also. Let's say if I want to use this one, like the variable called what is the value is there in the test I want to use. How you can use this dot test? That means whatever the value is there in the test, you are assigning the variable, sorry, the parameters of this particular method. Okay.
Sir, one thing.
Hmm.
Sir, the scope of the these dot test is including the lightning element.
This is inside the lightning element we are doing.
Inside the lightning element. Okay, sir.
Okay. Syntax. This way, actually, this is the syntax. Sometimes I cannot understand the syntax. I cannot remember the syntax. Every time, actually, I am searching this one. Forget about this particular part. Now, what I have done, see, in the connected callback, I called a apex method. Okay, that is the parameterized method. I send the parameter here. That means when I call this method, I am passing this parameter value. Now it will go to this particular apex class. Where is that? Okay, this, it will call this method. It will fetch this parameter, and it will query, and it will return list of record. Okay, now what I have written here, if I call this particular, you can say the method dot then, that means it's the syntax. If I call, then what are the result I am getting? That result I want to assign any particular variable. Okay,
Sir, it is returning list of contacts.
yes,
So,
the result is actually the whatever it is returning, it is coming in a result. Okay,
okay, sir.
it means it can be a list of contact, or it can be a map, it can be a wrapper class. I think you already learned the wrapper class, right?
Mm, no, sir.
No, sir. Apart class and integration has been not yet completed.
Okay, I think later I think it will be
Sir,
discussed.
sir, I think wrapper class mean it is predefined some class, mean predefined data type class.
Predefined class means actually the inner class, you can say. It's the inner
Yeah,
class
please.
between the class. That means why we are using the wrapper class. Normally, whenever you want to return some of the different values. Let's say in this particular Apex class, only one type of data I have written. That means contact. Now, if you
Yes, sir.
have a requirement that you want to return the list of contact which is associated with this account, the list of opportunity also which is associated with this account, and also the list of asset which is associated with this account. Now, at the same method, how can if you just return only the this list, only one parameter at a time, you can either you can list of contact or list of opportunity or list of asset. But if you
Yes,
have a requirement, then how you will define? That's why we are defining an inner class. The, you can say the wrapper class, where you actually we are assigning whatever the variables we want. I can say list of contact, list of opportunity, list of asset. Now we are assigning the account, sorry, the contact, opportunities, and asset, whatever we are getting as a return of the query in the wrapper. We are initiating the wrapper class inside this method, and we are adding those values, and we are returning that wrapper. So that in wrapper as a whole is containing three A subjects data. One is opportunity, one is asset, one is contact. So for that, actually now sometimes we are actually using the wrapper inner class. Okay. So whenever actually I think Amartya sir will actually explain, I think that time he will explain on very clearly on this particular one. Okay.
okay, sir.
What I'm doing, just will explain one by one. Oh, Oh, list of contact. What is the ID? List of contact. Oh. Now, this is not coming as a table structure. So we can do also, we can do here also. Let's see, because for the would otherwise it will not in proper format. You cannot. Sorry. Let me call this one, and then here also contact record 2 and contact record 1. Just I'm updating, and here we are using list of contact, and the same thing, the column and everything we are calling from the same column properties. For what is that for syntax? Oh. Okay. See, whatever I have done, just I'm explaining one by one. In the connected callback, I called a method which is actually containing one parameter. What we are doing, we are sending this parameter. Whatever the parameters you have mentioned in this particular Apex class, the same parameters you have to mention here, and you have to assign some value. You can assign a local variable value, whatever you want. Now we are calling this particular, this is the syntax how you can call the method and also with the parameter. Now if whatever the returns we are getting, we are capturing dot then result. That means whatever the result means after calling this the method, what are the values we are getting, we are actually assigning this variable, sorry, the result in this particular local variables. That means list in this list, and we are displaying this list another lightning card component. Here actually this is a list, that's why we are not fetching as a list dot data, something not like that. we are actually get whatever the data means, whatever the values it is coming, we are actually assigning in this array. So that's why you don't need to mention as in the where, like where method, because where method, whenever you are actually fetching in a variable, it's always coming as a data error parameters format. Now if you want to fetch the error, then you have to search with variable net dot error. Now here is a variable called contact data dot error. If you want to fetch the data variable, then you have to call like variable name dot data, means in this case contact data dot data. That's why in this section we are calling the data as the variable dot data. This is the where parameters, how you are fetching the records. But in this case, we it is not in the where parameters, it is in actually where decorators. It is actually I have called in the connected callback method. We have called this apex method, and whatever the value we are getting, we are assigning in this array. It's a local variable, you can say local array, and that array we are giving in this data data parameters. Okay, clear this part?
Yes, sir.
What is the difference is there between these two methods? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, and also let's say you, if you don't have any parameter, how you can call? Just you don't need to write this one. Means this is the format. If you don't have any parameters for a apex method, if you have, if you have two parameters, just you comma, give the comma, enter, and whatever the parameters you are giving here, let's say I have passed another one. Okay, now same text, whatever I have given here, you have to mention here colon, and you have to mention the variable, whatever this one you want to send in this apex method. Here,
Yes,
Hmm.
sir.
where method also you can call as a parameter with the parameters. It's the same way you have to mention here as well. Means you have to assign the variables here, not in this format. No, I think the syntax, I have to check what is the syntax it is using. Means the where method also you can call with a specific parameters. If you have any where method, and if any parameters if you want to send, then also you can send. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this particular part is clear, how you can call a parameterized method, and also whatever the values you are getting without the where parameters, where decorators, you can assign this particular one in an array, or whatever the local as a local variable you can assign a in an array, and you can display this particular array in this particular lightning data table or data card, whatever you want. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think we are running out the time. So today, whatever we discussed, there is a decorator, three kind of decorator we have. One is API, one is track, one is where decorator. API decorator normally we are using as the global decorator. That means outside of this component, if you want to access the variables or anything, then we have to assign as a where decorator. Just I have shown you here in this particular one. So as I mentioned as a API, that's why you can change the variable of this, change the value of this variable. Otherwise, you cannot. Track variables normally is the local variables. You can any variables if you mention as a track, normally it's a local variable. Now anything is changed, it will be tracked, you can say, without giving any kind of decorators. Also normally it's behaving like a local variables. You outside of this component you cannot use. Where decorator is used at the time of means loading of the page, or first time whenever, or refreshing of the page, whenever you are means opening this lightning web component. Normally where decorators calling an apex parameters, sorry, apex method or database method, you can say, which is fetching the records, and it's binding the records in a data error format in a variable, where variables. Now how we are assigning the where variables? We just outside of the where decorator we are assigning the methods we calling, and after that if I assigning any variable, automatically it is actually taking, the system is taking this variable as a where variable. In where variable, after calling the method, whatever the date, whatever the return is coming, it's actually in error and data format, it's actually storing in these variables. And if you want to display the data property, then that just you have to fetch, means you have to retrieve the means the variable dot data value, or if you want to display the error property, then you have to fetch the variable dot error value. Normally after, without error decorator, normally any apex method you can call any of the function, either it's a on click function, on event function, or change handler function, or any connected callback functions. You can call the variable, you can call the method, and you can pass the parameters if you want, or means if it is mentioned in the database, sorry, in the apex class. And then whatever the value you are getting, it's coming in a result, and that result, you with that result you can do whatever you want. Either you can store in a array for display, or you can do other actions on this particular return variables. And in the data table, lightning data table, whatever the columns, if you want to display just outside of the, you can say, the main lightning element function, you have to mention, and you can add one by one whatever the columns you want to display there. And whenever you are actually using any decorator, first of all you have to import that decorator from the LWC library, otherwise it will give error. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Any doubt or anything?
Sir, I have one query, sir. Please scroll down the page, sir.
Sorry?
Sir, please scroll down the page, sir. Just once more, sir. Just down, sir. No, what is the which is the JavaScript?
This is the
Yes,
Java.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have got it. Sir, in the result part, dot then result is equal to var list on is equal to result. If we cannot assign the result value into list con, and if we directly assign the value result value into this,
Yeah, let's check.
okay, sir.
It will not create any problem. See, it is displaying, because the contact record 2 you're displaying the list here. See, contact record 2 you're displaying the list of contact, the variable data. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.